Hey guys, it's me, SSJ Kage, and since you guys have been asking for it, here's part 2 of What If Deku Was a Waterbender, so let's get right into it. So here we pick up right where we left off in part 1. So Deku's mother sends Deku down to the Southern Water Tribe, and Deku, he brings along his schoolwork and everything so that he is still participating in school. He's just sending that work back to Japan. So Deku arrives in the Southern Water Tribe, and he sees his father. And Deku hasn't seen his father since he was a baby. And Deku's father walks up to Deku and says, "Wow, I haven't seen you since you were just a small child and you couldn't even walk at that time." And Deku doesn't really recognize him, and Deku's father tells him that his name is Aput, which means snow. And Deku accepts this, and he takes him on a tour around the Southern Water Tribe. And this version of the Southern Water Tribe is a lot different from the Southern Water Tribe that we're used to from Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. So in the time from Korra's age, a lot has changed. So the Southern Water Tribe has become a lot more sophisticated and a lot more like the Northern Water Tribe. So you can see that there are a lot of ice sculptures everywhere, houses made not just of sealskin, but also like stone and primarily ice and snow. So Deku asks if he can gain a Southern Water Tribe name for everyone to call him, because Deku really wants to immerse himself in this culture because he never grew up in it. So Deku's father thinks of a name, and he takes a minute to ponder what he should call Deku, and he comes up with the perfect name. So he comes up with the name Amarok, which means gray wolf, and gray wolves happen to be Deku's favorite animals in this what if. So Deku asks his father to train him in the art of waterbending, since he now has a true Southern Water Tribe name. And Deku's father agrees to this. And so he tells Deku that before he can teach him waterbending, Deku first has to learn the fighting style of Southern Water Tribe warriors. So Deku trains with this, and he does this for about 2 months. So Deku is now physically ripped and buff after doing all those push-ups, planks, sit-ups, and all that for 2 months. And also in this training, Deku learned how to hold his breath in freezing cold water for 10 minutes and in room temperature water for up to 20 minutes. So now Deku is capable of really expanding his waterbending fighting style to actually swimming in the water and waterbending while he's surrounded by water. So not only can Deku do that, he can also survive in extremely cold environments for extended periods of time now. So now Deku is really, really strong. He has a solid fighting style. He knows how to use a boomerang and a club, which is something that Sokka used in the original, in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So now Deku is training with waterbending, and Deku's father Pakut teaches him about the ocean and moon spirit and how they are in a balance of a push and a pull. So he teaches Deku about how pushing and pulling are both fundamental to the art of waterbending, and how strong defense can turn into a offense at a moment's notice. So Deku masters his push and pull technique pretty quickly, And so now he teaches Deku how to control the phase changing of water. So now he teaches him how to change water into ice, ice into water, ice into water vapor, and water into water vapor, and vice versa. So he's capable of doing all that. And then he teaches Deku how to boil water by using waterbending. So Deku masters all this really, really quickly. So because of that, so we are now in Deku's 3rd month of training. So he mastered that phase changing in only 1 month. So now he starts training Deku in by using larger quantities of water. So he takes Deku out to a large iceberg, and he tells Deku to bend it. And Deku was capable of he cracked the ice first, and then he changed it into a gas, and he created water vapor by using that, and then he brought it back down into a liquid. So Deku he grasped this aspect of waterbending pretty quickly, and he used it really, really well. So he brought Deku out to the ocean, and he told Deku to create a tsunami. So this actually proved to be kind of hard for Deku to do because he had never tried to bend water on such a large scale before. But he tried it, and he trained with this. And within a few weeks, he was capable of creating a pretty large tsunami that he could ride on. And so Deku's father praised him for this because this was a really, really big tsunami that he was capable of using. So Deku's father knew that Deku wants to become a pro hero, and he just wants to help him in his dream of becoming a pro hero. So he brings Deku to the women of the Southern Water Tribe, and they teach him the arts of healing. And traditionally, this was a style of waterbending that only the women used, but Deku wanted to learn this because he knew that he might get hurt in a battle, and he knew that learning how to heal himself would be a valuable asset to not only him, but also his allies, like his future friends when he's a pro hero. So they start teaching Deku the basics of this, and he grasps onto this pretty well. He's not a prodigy by any means or anything, but he's capable of healing pretty well. So Deku is now in his 6th month of training. So now he has mastered the basics of healing. He can now use large quantities of water, and he is now really strong. So Deku's father now has trained Deku up to the point where he's a really strong waterbender now. And so now they start sparring. And so now Deku has he is training with a waterbender, his father, and now like I just said, they're sparring now. So this was Deku's first time training with someone that had a quirk similar to his. Well, it's not actually a quirk, it's just waterbending. But they start training with this, and now Deku knows how to spar with another waterbender. So Deku breezes through this aspect of the training pretty well and easily. So now they're in the ninth month of training. So for his final 3 months of training, Deku's father tells Deku about the dark art of bloodbending and how it was outlawed for a while, but he wants to teach it to Deku because he knows that this will be a valuable asset in his arsenal if he's fighting villains. And then he also tells Deku that they come from a powerful bloodbending family. And if you guys remember back in The Legend of Korra, there was Yakone, Tarlok, and Amon. And these 3 people came from a very powerful bloodbending family. And Deku's father reveals to him that they're actually related to Yakone, Yakone, his name is evading me right now, I can't remember, but basically Amon's family. And he reveals to Deku that they come from that family. And so Deku initially did not want to learn bloodbending because it's against his morals, like manipulating someone against their will. But then he knows that this could be a valuable asset when he's fighting a very, very strong villain. So Deku's father trains him, and they find out that Deku is actually a psychic bloodbender, so he can manipulate, so he can bloodbend by just using his mind. But Deku does have a limit on this. He can't psychic bloodbend just willy-nilly without the full moon. He can bloodbend without the full moon, but he doesn't normally. He can't use it psychically without the full moon. But when the full moon is out, he can use a psychic bloodbending. So he realizes that his son, so I'm talking about Deku's father right now, he realizes that his son Deku is really, really, really strong with waterbending, and is quite possibly the strongest waterbender to come out of the Southern Water Tribe in a very, very long time. So now we're at the end of the 10 months of training for the UA entrance exams, and Deku is extremely strong now. His father trained him up well, and he sent him back to Japan, and Deku promised that he would be back soon. So now Deku is home, and he applies for UA, just like Bakugo. And, yeah. So when Deku returns home from the Southern Water Tribe, everyone gives him a warm welcome, except for Bakugo. Bakugo knows that something was up with Deku because he can just sense it. He knows that Deku is doing something in those 10 months, but he can't really put a finger on it. He thinks that Deku is training, but he can't really tell. So a few weeks go by, and it's now time for the UA entrance exams. So Deku gets there. He still gets a bad grade on the written exams, just like in canon. But now we skip over to the practical exams, and Deku still trips and has a little interaction with Uraraka. And so now we go up to where everyone's at the starting line. And Deku was determined to show everyone his true power. So Deku brought like this huge gourd of water on his back. It's kind of similar to, if you watch Naruto, how Gaara brought like a big gourd of sand around with him all the time. Deku isn't going to be holding a big gourd of water all the time. He just did it for this part. So basically Deku has that, and the timer counts down 3, 2, 1, and everyone is off and they're starting destroying robots and everything. And Deku calls the water out of his gourd, and he's generating like ice bullets, and he's just shooting these right through the robots, and he's taking them down left and right. And to take down these robots more effectively, he starts using these water whips, and he puts these water whips around his arms to generate water arms. And he's using these to just slice right through the robots. So not only is he using like water whips to just slice right through them, he's also using like ice bullets to shoot right through them. So Deku has a really, really high score so far, and right now he's taken out the most number of robots, with Bakugo right behind him. So Deku has a pretty high score. He's taken down, I'd say 20 to 25, maybe even 30 robots so far. And when Deku was in the middle of taking down one of these robots, he heard a scream, and he turned around to see that it was a girl, and she was trapped under this rubble. And he went over to help her, and then he saw what everyone was like screaming about, because it wasn't just her screaming, it was everyone else screaming. He looked up, and there was this giant robot rampaging through the city. And so Deku initially started to run, but then he realized that he could take this robot down, and he knew that he had to save this girl. So Deku used all of his power, and he knew that he wasn't able. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to take down this giant robot by just using the water that he had brought in his big gourd. So Deku looks around for water and he doesn't see any. And then he remembers that they're in like the city area. And under every city is a sewer system. So Deku focuses all of his power into calling up the water from the sewer system. And a huge wave of water bursts through the concrete. And everyone's just looking at Deku manipulating this water so expertly. And he generates this giant ball of water. And then he uses this water to freeze the robot in place. And everyone's just looking at Deku in awe because he's doing this with seemingly like no effort at all. So the robot is frozen in place right now, but he knows that this won't hold for long. So Deku takes the water out of his gourd and he condenses it down into this one giant ice spike. And he launches this ice spike right through the robot's head as fast as he can. This destroys the robot's motherboard and it falls over, and everyone is applauding Deku for taking down this robot. And so Deku goes home after the exams and he's just absolutely exhausted because he just waterbent the most water he has ever used in his entire life. He literally froze a giant robot in place with just his waterbending, no one else helping him or anything. So he goes home and he's extremely tired from taking down that robot. And a few days go by and he gets a letter of acceptance. And he opens the letter and All Might still he still tells him that he's accepted and everything. And then he also says that he has a record-breaking score. Deku literally made 90 villain points, and he gained 60 rescue points for rescuing Uraraka. And this put Deku in first place with 140 points, with Bakugo right behind him with 100 points. And then everyone else still has the same amount of points. But yeah, so Deku is number 1, and he's accepted into UA. So that's going to be it, guys. Thank you for watching this really, really long video. Don't be expecting too many videos that are this long because it takes up a lot of my storage. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. Sorry for the quality again because I'm literally recording this at 3 a.m. So I'm kind of sleepy and tired. But yeah, I just really wanted to pump this out. And please like, comment, subscribe if you want more. And bye, guys. I'll see you in the next What If.
組手は終わり。かかしの勝ちだね。